Hello and welcome friends. In Unit 3, up till now, we have studied about the public sector. We talked about the objectives which are sought to be achieved by setting up public sector enterprises. We talked about their problems in the private sector in India also. We talked about different categories of private sector enterprises here in India. We talked about their role and the limitations which are there with the private sector in India. Today now is the time for us to continue our discussion on cooperatives. You would recall that we had talked about the main objectives of setting up a cooperative and what are the different types of cooperatives that we find here in India. We had taken up some example also, and now we have to discuss the role of the cooperative sector as far as the Indian economy is concerned. First thing is providing credit to members not served by public and private sectors. Now please understand what we mean by this. There are many people in the society which require some loans, some credit. For example, there could be small farmers who need credit so that they can buy seeds, they can buy fertilizers, or for example they can buy pesticides. And many of these, they are not considered credit worthy. Credit worthy means banks do not think that they are good enough to be provided such financing, to be provided such credit. Why? Because good chances that they would not be able to return the money. So this is what we mean by lack of credit worthiness. So a credit worthy guy is somebody who is likely to be able to pay back the loan along with the interest. So that particular individual is considered credit worthy. But many a times, because these small time farmers, I am taking some example of a farmer, but there are other examples also. So these small time farmers or a small time mobile trader, feriwala, very small time mobile trader who is not earning much in a particular day, and since he does not earn a lot in a particular day, he does not have any property also to furnish as security to the banks while taking loans. So many a times the public and the private sector banks, they do not provide finance to this particular section of the society. So these cooperatives can perform a role, they perform the role of providing credit to such members of the society. For example, some feriwalas can come together and they can pool in their money, whatever they feel that they can contribute every day, and this amount which is thus collected then can be given away as loan to one or two members of the group. So this is how credit can be made available to those needing it, but not considered to be credit worthy by the public sector banks or the private sector banks or the non-banking financial companies. Then pooling of resources is another. We have taken example of how pooling of resources takes place. I have given you just now this example of how people pool in their money so that they can provide credit to those members who require it. Fine, and there are so many examples of such credit societies, such cooperative credit societies wherein women, they pool in their savings, and whenever a particular woman in the group, in the cooperative requires some money, maybe for marriage or maybe because of illness or for the education of her children, then this amount is which has been collected is given away as loan to this lady, and once the work is done, the lady has to return the amount to the group. So this way pooling of resources may take place. Again, for example, let me take example of cooperative farming. Now what happens in a cooperative farming? People pool in their resources. So they would now pool in whatever resources they have. For example, one of them might be having a tractor. There might be somebody who might be having some equipment. So they will pool in their resources, and they will till the land of all the members, all the farmer members of this cooperative in a coordinated fashion as one single piece of land, right? So the land is being pulled up, the various equipments that these farmers had, these equipments have been pulled up. Not only this, but if the people, if these farmers who are doing cooperative farming, who have come up together to do cooperative farming, they require, let's say, a big machine. For example, they require a harvester, and they do not have the money as an individual farmer, they do not have sufficient money to buy that. They can buy as a group, and once they have bought as a group, they can then decide which particular farmer would be using that particular machine at which particular time of the day. So this is another example, this is another way how pooling of resources takes place as far as cooperative is concerned. Then it also promotes thrift. Thrift means basically you have to save, you don't have to spend all the money that you have. So I have taken example of how women cooperatives which have been formed, they encourage the members to save as much as they can and to use those savings to earn interest by depositing them with the cooperative. So in this way, cooperatives also encourage thrift among the members, and specifically the cooperative credit societies. Then increase in risk taking and entrepreneurial behavior. Now please understand why we are saying that once the cooperative is formed, the risk taking increases. Please understand, it has been found out that moderate risk taking is very, very important for entrepreneurial behavior and entrepreneurial success. What do we mean by this? Extreme risk taking is when you take a lot of risk without thinking about the repercussions, and low level of risk taking is you do not take any risk. Fine. But what is moderate? It is somewhere in the middle. It is not too extreme, it is not too low level of risk taking, it is somewhere in the middle. And when you take moderate risks, it has been found out by research that your chances of setting up your own business and running it successfully increase, which means your entrepreneurial behavior, chances of displaying entrepreneurial behavior increases, and you are more likely to succeed as an entrepreneur. Now in India, people are generally risk averse. We are not a risk taking community. We are not a community which likes to take risk. If you talk about the model personality, which means I'm talking about the average Indian, I'm not talking about a particular individual. You could be a high risk taker or you could be a moderate risk taker, but I'm talking about on an average how Indians are. So the psychological makeup is that they do not want to take risk, they are risk averse. But when people come together, the chances of taking risk, the propensity of taking risk increases. I'll give an example. Suppose if I tell you that you have to go inside a jungle at the dead of the night all alone, you would probably not want to do that. But if I tell a group of 10 or 15 people to do this, they would be more likely, they would be more ready to do that. Why? Because since they have come together, their chance of risk taking has increased. Now they can take more risk. Likewise, when people come together, and in India people are generally risk averse, when they come together, their chances of risk taking increase, which means they become moderate risk takers. And since moderate risk taker means they are more likely to be successful in setting up their own business, cooperative sector ultimately helps in increasing the entrepreneurial behavior also. Diversifying income sources of poor families. Now, how do you diversify income sources of poor families? Right? For example, you might have heard of so many cooperative societies in India which have formed, in which the women pool up their resources and they try to engage in some vocation, some business. For example, suppose some women in a village, they have some free time towards the afternoon and towards the evening. So what will they do? They will form a cooperative, they will pool in their resources and utilize that particular time to maybe cook, to maybe produce papads. I hope you know what papads are. So they can do that and they can produce papads, and then what can they do? They can sell it into the market. So they are making use of their free time to earn something extra for their family, for their own. So this is what we mean by diversifying the income sources of poor families. Let me give an example of Lijjat Papad. Now Lijjat Papad was actually this kind of a venture which was started by some women coming together, and they thought that they have some free time also, so why not let's utilize this free time, and slowly Lichat Papad grew into a big business, right? And this took place in Maharashtra. So these women which were not able to earn a lot, or they didn't have their own source of funding, they were dependent on their husbands, or in some cases their parents. Now they could earn something of their own also. So this is what we mean by diversifying income sources of the poor families, generating another source of income for these poor families. So I have given some examples actually. Then many a times cooperatives also help in marketing of products. In Pithoragarh also you find these kind of cooperatives, right? In Uttarakhand, somewhere in Nainital district, you find the fruitage cooperative. Likewise, in Uttarakhand also, you have these kind of cooperatives where these agricultural produce, for example, madua and the madua flour, atta, which is produced in villages, this is actually marketed. So a cooperative has been formed. The farmers, they produce madua in their fields, and then they use it to produce the madua flour, and this flour is then marketed under a particular brand name. Fine. So this way the farmers are able to generate more revenue for themselves. They are able to get a better return for their madua crop. Not only madua, for various varieties of rice. For example, Jhingura is a variety of rice. So that is also sold through cooperatives here in Pithoragarh. So this is another role that the cooperative plays. And then, as I said, it helps ensure better returns for the members in the cooperative. And many a times, as I told you, buyer cooperatives, I hope you remember this discussion I have had earlier in the last session, where buyer cooperatives can be formed, wherein people pool their purchases and then they purchase as one single unit, which means rather than every single individual member purchasing for his own family, all the families pool in their purchases, they club their purchases, and then they purchase for the whole group as one single entity, and they are able to charge, they are able to extract more discount from the supplier, which they then pass on to the members. So ultimately the members are able to purchase the various items of daily need at a much lower price than what is prevailing there in the market. So bulk purchase of inputs at discounted rates for members, this is another role that is played by the cooperative sectors, and these kind of cooperative societies are known as the buyer cooperatives. I have taken up example of how farmers can also do this to buy various inputs for agriculture. Now let us talk about some of the problems that the cooperative sector faces specifically here in India. First is, generally most of these cooperatives have very small scale of operation. You know about Amul, that is a very large cooperative. Even Achal is a considerably large cooperative. But then there are so many cooperatives which are very, very small. They have small scale of operations. And since they have small scale operations, which means they only have small volume of items that they produce or market in the market with the customers or market among the customers, they are not able to generate much revenue. And since they are not able to generate much revenue, they are not able to remain viable. They are not able to survive for long. So this is one main issue. Another issue is most of these cooperative societies, when they formed, they don't have access to skilled manpower. They don't have access to people who are well versed with how to market the products or who know about the accountancy basics. Let's say some farmers coming up together and forming a cooperative so that they can sell their madua crop in the market or the flour produced from madua, but they do not know how to market because they have never had that kind of training or that kind of orientation or that kind of exposure. So they do not have these kind of skills. They do not know how to maintain the accounts of their cooperative because they do not know about the accountancy basics. Fine. So this is one major issue. Now another issue is they also cannot hire these kind of resources from outside. The reason is, since they have small operations and the turnover is less, they do not have much amount available with them, left with them to pay these people if they hire them from outside. So they also cannot hire a BB or an MBA graduate to do marketing for them or to take care of the account. So this is another main issue with the cooperative sector here in India. And then lack of professional management. The management is not professional. Naturally, these cooperatives are managed by people who have been elected by the members of the cooperative, right? So this could be, there could be various designations like the treasurer or the secretary or the president or the vice president. So these people are the ones who are managing the cooperative, but they do not have any know-how, they do not have any experience of managing a particular cooperative in a professional fashion. So they do not know how to manage it professionally. So what happens, the cooperative is not able to be managed professionally, the cooperative does not function in an efficient fashion, and the cooperatives are not able to generate a lot of turnover and to remain viable. So this becomes a cause for less turnover and not being viable. Then many a times the items that are produced in these kind of cooperatives, for example, many cooperatives produce items like BDs, like matchboxes, marches ke dibbe, like agarbattis, perfumes, dhoops. Now, since they do not have any orientation about quality management, they do not have exposure to any basics of quality management, the quality of the items that they produce remains inferior. It is not of a very good quality that they produce, that the items are not of a very good quality, and because of it, what happens, when these items reach the customers are generally not satisfied, and the customers prefer not to purchase from them again. So these cooperatives are not able to expand their market. They are not able to expand their market. Why? Because the product lacks quality, and so the customers are not likely to purchase again and again. So they are not able to sell to the customers again and again, and they lose out to bigger firms which have a greater focus on quality. So this is another issue with the cooperatives. Then many a time some cooperatives are formed to gobble up subsidy which is provided by the government. Let me give you an example how government provides subsidy. And government provides subsidy to encourage cooperatives, because we have seen that cooperatives suit the Indian psychological profile, and they are good because India people are risk averse. When they come together as cooperative, they are likely to take moderate risks, and moderate risks would probably mean that they are successful as a business, fine, successful as an entrepreneur, and that is why government provides subsidy. So how is the subsidy provided? Let me give another example in a very simplistic fashion. 10 people coming up together and they pool in, let's say, their resources 5 rupees each. So the cooperative now has 550 rupees. Now the government says, okay, whatever the amount that you will collect, 10% of that amount I will also provide to you as subsidy. For example, I will provide you 10% of 50 rupees means 5. So in essence, now you will have 55 rupees. Or for example, if you want to go to a bank and ask for loan, 10% of the amount, the loan amount and the interest on that will be paid by the government. So let me give you an example. 10 people coming together, right, and they want to get a loan of rupees 20. So the government says, okay, fine, you get this particular loan of rupees 20, but on 20% of this amount, on let's say 10% of this amount, you don't need to pay back anything, which means rupees 2, you do not need to pay back anything. I'll pay the loan and I'll pay the interest on rupees 2. So in essence, you only have to repay 18 rupees and the interest on those 18 rupees. But these cooperatives are many a times formed so that they can gobble up this rupees 2. So they're not formed for any business purpose or for the welfare of the members. They are formed so that they can gobble up this subsidy which comes from the government when the cooperatives apply for bank loans. Fine. So this is another problem with the cooperative sector in India, and many a times you see that there are so many political interferences, and this is specifically the case with so many cooperative banks which are operating here in India. Along with that, we have cooperative bank here in Uttarakhand or in Pithoragarh as well. So there you find political interferences. Many a times the employees of the bank, they are forced to provide loan to those people who are likely to default, who are unlikely to be able to return the loan amount, and they pressurize the cooperative bank to provide loan to these kind of people. So these kind of political interferences are rampant as far as cooperative sector here in India is concerned, and this is another problem for them. Now what you can do is you can watch this particular movie Manthan. Manthan basically is a movie which is basically documenting the story of Amul, how it started, and it actually documents the story of Dr. Varghese Kurian, who was the major protagonist, who was the major influence in the setting up of Amul as a very successful cooperative. Dr. Varghese Kurian is also known as the milkman of India, and he is known for Operation Flood, which basically is increasing the production of milk. So he is known for that, and basically Amul was formed in Gujarat, and this movie depicts the story, the initial stages of how Amul was set up and how it started functioning, and what all were the problems that it faced, not only in terms of getting the resources, but also in terms of getting the cooperations from the villagers, and the opposition that it had to face from the other vested interests. For example, those zamindars or local middlemen who were benefiting from the existing situation, and they did not want Manthan to disturb the existing balance. So this is what the movie depicts, and I would advise you to go through this particular movie to watch this particular movie. So with this, we are coming to the close of our discussion on cooperative sector. In the next session that we'll have, we'll talk about the small scale sector. Thank you very much.